This is the Happy Hour Experience with the Drunken Grape. I am your show host, Rob. Each and every week, we have excellent conversations with extraordinary people, cracking extraordinary drinks. Make sure to have a drink in your hand for this show. Of course, make sure to smash the like, subscribe to this channel, share the content with your friends, family, with your network. It's always great to get engagement. Please comment below. Helps the YouTube algorithm, helps us grow, and it helps expand the guests' growth as well. For today, we're going to talk success and self-help on success. And I can't think of anybody better than a local friend of mine. I've known Tuan for a number of years. I think we met about 19 years ago networking somewhere, Tuan, with Mark Dill and Eileen Moore. And you have a fascinating journey. I mean, just coming to Canada from Vietnam alone and the struggles your family faced. Your father had a heart attack, I think you were mentioning in the green room. Ladies and gentlemen, without further delay, let's have Tuan tell the story. Tuan, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. I'm great. I'm grateful for this moment. You know, I got my little wine here ready to
nice. I got to enjoy my Trappist ale. We're going to get into that in a bit.
Nice.
Yeah, just before we get started into the happy hour, how did you get started into everything? You have a fascinating personal journey. And one thing I always love sharing is triumphing over adversity. You've had adversity. You grew up with adversity. Talk to us a bit about it. Just talk to us about how you got going and how you really hit a great stride of success, because it's not every day you sit down with somebody that's done the breadth of work you've done at a relatively young age. It's impressive.
First of all, thank you. And second of all, I guess it's a new philosophy of mine, which is I say, none of my successes or failures really define me, right? So I'm blessed for what I've done, and I'm blessed for what I've screwed up as well, right? So but yeah, before I even talk, I'm hardwired into my computer, but I feel choppy. Is it okay on your end? Do you see clear?
Yeah, no, you're flowing really well. So Riverside FM, for anybody using that, a huge shout out to their software tool. When you're doing recordings, sometimes there's little lags, but no, you're doing great. We're at about 99% upload, 99% upload, which means your connection's perfect.
Perfect. Yeah. I'm fiber directly to my laptop, so because I didn't want this to screw up.
No kidding. I love it.
yeah. But yes, I mean, I'll do kind of like the Coles Notes Express version of it, which is first of all, in terms of entrepreneurship, I actually never thought I would be an entrepreneur earlier in my age, and then I'll explain why. So, like you mentioned, I was born in Vietnam, and we left during the changing of the guards, if I could say that, in Vietnam. And yeah, it was being in the boat in the ocean, and for several days, and my mom holding me, thinking I am dead, actually, because I stopped moving. But then, at the grace of some divine power, we were picked up by a used carrier, and at the end of the day, saved my life. I got shocked back to life twice due to 2 heart failures, and so that's when we realized I was born with a heart attack. And then, of course, coming to Canada eventually. We were really the recipients of incredible love and community service of both U.S. and Canada, right? So we're really grateful for that. And when you're a new, like an immigrant, basically, to any country, I believe, especially if your parents made a sacrifice to be there, then you kind of, and then plus add a heart attack in there, right? Add a couple of heart attacks. And then now you are looking at a purpose given to you. Like you live with purpose from the beginning. There's no other option, but holy smokes, am I ever lucky to be alive? And so there's 2 things that I did most of my early years, which was I volunteered a lot, because my parents both told me how much our community has done for us. And so volunteerism was really ingrained in us since we were like 5-6 years old, including like going up to our landlord, our concierge landlord in Montreal, and we would just give him a bowl of fried rice or pho soup, right? Like, it's just a way of saying thank you. And even though we had no money, right? And early on, my dad also had a heart attack, which meant my mom ended up taking care of all of us, 3 kids and my dad. So it was really, really difficult, but it was a blessing at the same time. The other thing I did was I pursued medical school. So because I felt if medicine saved my life, then that was what I was going to be. I was going to become a doctor, dude. So I worked in hospitals. I excelled in science. But then I saw Michael Jackson in 1982, I think, when he did the Motown 25th anniversary.
Okay.
And I saw the moonwalk, and right there was the birth of my soul, or more like the connection of my soul. And at the end of the day, I love the human experience. I love entertain. I love people. I love when I see people smile and have fun, right? And that was in the back of my head for years as I pursued medical school. And along the way, I worked in, like I said, I volunteered in hospitals, and I started learning how hospitals had a foundation. Like, I didn't know this at 14, 15. And that's when I realized that people raise money for these foundations, and I want to be part of that. So I started getting to fundraising and organizing events, and my birthday parties became fundraisers. And I really love this part where I was creating an experience for people to enjoy, but yet it was raising money for charity. And here I am still studying, thinking I'm going to be a doctor. But then at the 11th hour, I said to myself, you know what I'd love to be? I'd love to one day be a rich person. That's what I said. I didn't say a business owner. I'd love to be really rich one day. And with my wealth, I want to give back to charity. I really loved, giving to needy causes. And of course, I was reminded constantly that we were a recipient of social services. We grew up on welfare. I had Salvation Army clothing probably till I was till 7, 8 years old, or even 9, maybe even some of them. So I was always a recipient of some kind of social program. And so I like giving back. I love, and I learned how much money was important, or how nonprofits and charities and foundations and things like that were lacking money to help those in need. So then I did engineering, did chemical engineering because I wanted to be like a tech person one day. I realized that even though I loved science, no, I didn't love science. I was good at it, but I didn't know anything about business. Like when you grow up on welfare, you don't really know much about business. And so then I said, I want to learn about business. No one in my family could teach me. There was no internet like YouTube, right? It was 1994, 95. And so then I switched over to business. So I switched over to business, and that's when I discovered the internet even more, right? And over the years, I was just playing with the internet and doing websites and things like that. And then 2 other friends of mine, we kind of came together as we were all playing with the internet at the same time. Craig Dornbos, who's like the brainchild of Ottawa Kiosk, which was our online directory, with Stephen Lau, who was a PhD guy in biochemistry. And then there's me, who's the accountant playing with the internet. And we came together and eventually built different multimedia internet companies, right? And I don't want to go too far because literally I've talked about this for like hour and a half, but I didn't know what I was doing. And all I knew was that we were solving a really big problem that I cared about, which was, at that time, small businesses couldn't afford TV, radio, newspaper ads. It was very expensive, like little restaurants and things like that. They can't afford it. And then that's when we said, the purpose of these online directories is to provide visibility for the underdog. And so that became a really purposeful fight. And so, we built that, and we leveraged the success of Ottawa Kiosk, which became Canadian Kiosk, took it to 26 cities. I focused on the health vertical and a convention vertical. Then I had my own like mini software business on the side. Without going through all of it, the success was great. And I gave basically all my money to charity the moment I made it. So for the listeners and watchers, people describe me as a successful entrepreneur. And I'll say this, I think I could run successful businesses, but me as a person, like I tend to just give my money away. So, like I'm not the smartest guy with money. So like, that's where I need accountability for like, how do I spend my money and how I save it, how I invest it. It's why I have these people to help me out, because I never felt like a successful entrepreneur because I make good money and I build good businesses, but I always end up giving it all away. And I'm like, I got to start all over and get all stressed over again. Right. And so that's like a very clear differentiation between like running a successful business versus being a successful person, like financially speaking, at least, right? So I want to make sure that's a clear distinction. But I'm going to end with this dude Buddha here, because then in case there's a question along the way. Yeah, so I after we sold our last business in 2011, and I gave basically most of my money to charity and time even until that point. I got married, and I was going to like build a business to my family empire, but the marriage fell apart basically the moment it started, and I was super depressed. My ex-wife was pregnant, and we were not happy at the end of the day. And we split up. And when we got that divorce, or when we actually just separated, I was brutally depressed. As you've known me for years, for 20 plus years now, most people always see me as like this superstar, right? And only when I expressed my depression on Facebook that particular year was when people said, "Wow, Tuan is human. He's not a machine." And it just went sort of viral. Like it had like about 180 shares, and people around the world who I didn't even know started contacting me, telling me that they are a lawyer or they're like an entrepreneur, and they are all dealing with depression deep inside, and they just haven't been able to like express it. But when they saw people coming and responding to me saying, "Hey, Tuan, just give me a call." And I don't know if you know Mike Machargo, but he's the first guy that showed up to my door the moment he saw that. And he brought like an orange juice and vodka, and it was really cool for people to see, like, when you open up vulnerably, what you're met with is vulnerability as well. And then eventually the men who contacted me, we started hanging out more, and we started hosting calls, and that's how Dude Buddha became Dude Buddha. It's a online community with now over 14,000 men who come together to support each other and share, and be vulnerable, right? And the best part is it's anonymous. It's on a platform that's off of Facebook, off of social media.
That's great.
And you could just create a code name, and no one knows who you are, and you could literally say anything you want. And in our Dude Buddha like philosophy is we don't care who you are. We just care what you're dealing with and how we can support you. Your identity is for you to keep and protect. So there you go. That's like a long story short, bro.
That's awesome. Well, there's a lot to take away. I mean, first of all, surviving 2 heart attacks as an infant. And I believe your father survived a heart attack. That got the family to struggle. Your mom did a lot of the work, worked any basic job she could at the time, or anything she could get her hands on, landing into Canada, immigrants, not even knowing how to speak the language. I mean, triumphing over that kind of adversity alone is stellar, but the give back of what you've done with everything that you have had built over time is just, it's inspirational. I don't really have any other word to say for that. It's simply incredible. And you know what? To start off, cheers to the happy hour, ladies and gentlemen. Cheers to you, Tuan.
Cheers.
Yes, cheers. What are you drinking, my friend? Nice big glass of red wine
Yellowtail Shiraz. Yeah, the
I
Yellowtail
love
Shiraz.
Yeah, so Shiraz is actually a crossing between 2 grapes, Deriza and Mondouse Blanche. A lot of grapes you never think of. Its home is in the Rhone Valley of France, known as Syrah. But Syrah and Shiraz are the same grape. In Australia, it creates these inky, jammy, potent wines. They're a little more earthy, I would think, coming out of France. A little more restrained. That's more an old world style of grape. It's a little more, it's a windswept region, lots of sun, but in certain regions in the southeast of Australia, where most of your wine producing regions really pump out tremendous volumes of wine. It's a little richer, a little jammier. You always have notes of peppermint or eucalyptus typically in those things. Great with steak. I could go on about it. Dry, full-bodied wines. It is easily a big hit globally, and really, if you think of the modern age, definitely Australia has put its stamp on Shiraz. You have old vines in Australia that were never affected by a louse that plagued vineyards throughout Europe into the 19th and 20th centuries, decimated like 95% of European Vinus vinifera rootstock. They had to graft American stock on it. A bit of story about that in a happy hour. We love to educate people. Make sure to be enjoying a drink while you're watching this. I have here a Trappist ale. This is Monk beer. This is West Mall. This is one of the most prolific Trappist monastic order beers in the world. Normally they get up into really heavy doubles and triples. They get beer up to like 11.5% alcohol. It is like barley wine. This one is lighter. This is much more of what the monks would drink. This is an extra. This is a pale golden ale. Not very heavy. 4.8% alcohol, dry, very effervescent. You can tell that it's got a honey golden color to it. Delicious. Notes of nutmeg come onto the palate. Coriander, very much in the flair of how the Belgians brew. And these are delineated regions. Most people don't think of it, but to be Trappist and have the seal of Trappist beer on it, or the Trappist logo, it must be brewed by the Trappist monastic order within the walls of their monastery, of which most of the money goes back to preserving and building up the monastery as it grows. It's incredible. There's 13 active monasteries in the world, was 14. Ashell, I think in 2021 dissolved, and I believe it's West Mall that absorbed that brewery, because what happened was the last active monk left the monastery, so you can no longer call it Trappist. So a bit about that, my friend. Cheers. I hope it was fun.
Where can you get it?
Of education. This you can get in the LCBO. I actually found this in Ottawa on the Blair and Ogilvy LCBO, right by the Gloucester Centre near the Tim Hortons. I know Yellowtail is prolific. You can find it basically everywhere. What I like about Yellowtail is it's guaranteed easy and good drinking. It's not too complex. You can on the entry level. You know, it's just fun. It's about celebration and joy. This whole show is about bringing that to life too. So, you know, getting back to the breadth of work you've done, you have given literally millions to charity. There is without question that you've done this. And, you know, there's not many people that would give the bulk of their life's work back to charity. And, you know, what I love about this is you're giving back in a lot of cases to a great system, you know, in Canada. I mean, it's got its issues, but it's still overall a great system compared to most of the world. And it allows people to prosper and get up and running if they want to. And to give back into that system, you know, God bless you, my friend. You are the change that you want to be in this world. That's the Mahatma Gandhi saying I love to quote. And, you know, what are you presently doing? I know you've also been a TED Talk speaker. We're going to flash your LinkedIn profile shortly. But, you know, Dude Buddha, there's a lot to be said about that. You know that men are 3 to 4 times more likely to commit suicide than women under distress. 85% more likely to be incarcerated, or something more than that. I think it's like 4 times more likely to be incarcerated. 75 to 85% of inmate population is male. Men definitely are quietly suffering because we weren't taught to really express emotion in the Western world, which is just foolish. Talk to us a little bit about more about that, because Dude Buddha, what a brilliant service and network. I mean, how do they sign up? They just go to the website and sign up anonymously into that own closed social community?
Yeah, so right now we are kind of shifting a little bit. During the pandemic, it really blew up. And I'm using my business mind into this as well, because this is kind of a nonprofit. We don't make any money with this at all. It's just all volunteer run. And it's because I do not want I don't want money to be in a way of someone's healing. Right. And so I want to make sure people can access the resources, but at the same time, just knowing how value is delivered is when you serve a population that you feel most destined to serve and that you have the superpowers to serve. And I'm most relevant to men who own businesses, right? And during the pandemic, we opened up to all men because we just knew a lot of dudes were suffering, and they asked to come in. And now we're going through a process of supporting the men into moving into tribes that are more general, non-focused on entrepreneurship. And so we've closed down application processes. You could get on the wait list right now. If you go in there's a form you can fill out. But we're going to relaunch a new form and a new an update to the software, the software that we use to host the men in the beginning of November. And that's when you'll see a new form will come up. And basically, it's if you're an entrepreneur who owns a business and you're a dad, then this is the tribe for you, right? Because we deal with different things from taxes to our team and our families and expansion and growth, and wealth development, wealth preservation, bankruptcy, dealing with our own bankruptcies, because lots of dudes are trying their best and they're failing. So this is the type of conversation we have here. And in terms of general, what men, I've noticed a lot of men deal with is, for every one man who's willing to be vulnerable, there are 1,000 men who will not be vulnerable. And these are the men who we serve. And so the path of the men who come into Dude Buddha and we do have a friend, which he's going to launch a very similar community for all men, like Mind and Specific. So he's going to take over and he's going to serve the men who are not entrepreneurs. He's a life coach and he works in a job at the same time. So yeah, so he's a different space, in professional work. But all men need a space, and we notice that when we give them a space for complete anonymity, if you scroll down a little bit, what you'll see is the stuff that men actually write. And I actually did not include the more vulgar posts that they would write because they're anonymous. They literally say everything. Am I allowed to swear here? I don't actually know. I think YouTube would demonetize you if you have too much.
Can swear. I've sworn I've sworn on the show before. But we're just bringing down to self-care, business, fatherhood, intimacy, relationship.
Yeah, and men struggle with, of course, self-love, and because of that, they struggle with intimacy, right? And so, and then they relate intimacy to very different things, right? And they talk about erectile dysfunction. They talk about how they're gonna start using Viagra soon. They talk about all these things, and they talk about how either they lack intimacy at home and they just relate it to pure sex, right? And so we bring in experts in all of these 4 areas, and we help men through some of their questions through anonymous Q&As. But that's where you learn a lot about it, man. I mean, dudes are suffering and dudes are feeling a need for resources and a community where they can safely address their deepest struggles, right?
And I don't.
We also say go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, it's much needed because there's such a focus on, diversity and inclusion. And in some ways, I find it bigotry and exclusion. Some people may not want to hear that, but I'm also multiracial. I mean, I grew up, my mom's from Guyana, South America. She's gone now, but my late mother actually have a citizenship in that country. But it's growing up and seeing this and just seeing how things have transformed. We are at an imbalance, not a balance right now. And, if you take a look at a lot of the hiring and things like that, men get discarded in favor of women, or white men in particular get pushed aside. And there's a lot of issues with this. And this, this does cause mental trauma in any case or situation. There's not, and I'm not being, because I believe in full openness. I believe that we should be embracing everybody. I mean, I'm going to put that on the table right now. I certainly do not support any kind of bigotry or racism. And what I love about this is actually opening up the pot truly and fully for any male who wants to join this. I mean, I'd consider joining this just because there's other areas of interest for me. You got business, self-care, intimacy, and relationships. I got a great relationship going with my girlfriend. But you know what? It's always good to just get ideas to keep things fresh and keep things chugging along too, because you want to preserve it. If you got somebody great in your life, keep it.
For sure. Actually, funny you said, it's actually not just for male. We have women who self-identify as playing the masculine role in the relationship, for example, right? And then we have gay men as well. We literally have, anyone who feels that they can resonate with dealing with the masculine energy and when it becomes toxic and when it becomes, healthy. Right. And how to leverage it and all the problems that comes with it. This is really where people can come. And in particular, Dude Buddha is for men who own businesses or people who own businesses that relate to these challenges. And it's been a fun ride, dude. I'm blessed to be on this show, by the way. Again, thank you. And I've been blessed to be on a lot of shows and everything. Yeah. The conclusion really about Dude Buddha and any of these type of communities is that it's about creating a safe space where people feel safe, welcomed, and you come to Dude Buddha because you're not ready to face the world with your challenges. But the path of a Dude Buddha is you come in here not with people not knowing who you are, and then you get to a place of service and you reveal your name and you say, hey, if you guys, I can hop on a call with you. And then eventually people move out of Dude Buddha, or they stay in Dude Buddha, but they join other groups. Like there's one called Front Row Dads and the Dad Edge group. And these are groups where men are ready to take full ownership of their life and support other men in doing the same. Right. And so I love it when the men in the Dude Buddha group move on and they move on to these other tribes where it's an actual brotherhood where you meet up and you hike and you teach each other and you support each other. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. There's a gentleman named Kurt Mercadante. I'm pretty good friends with on LinkedIn. And he does a lot of things like this, particularly for men. And his goal is to free you up and experience true freedom, which is also very much a mental state. What I love about this is that you really are truly inclusive. And I would say even like that hardcore woke feminist movement, if you're part of that, why don't you join stuff like this to open your horizons too? I mean, I would invite men to actually look into why people are into the woke feminist movement too. You got to understand things and come to common ground to heal this world. Excluding anybody is not good. It's never good. I think we can all agree on that with anybody with that's just common sense. The middle ground is always the best ground to be on because it's safe ground, it's proper ground. And to establish safe zones like this provides that. And what a brilliant service. Before we wrap up, I want to share also a couple things. I want to bring up your LinkedIn profile. We're going to bring you up on LinkedIn here. I always laugh at this, that you go by the acronym of dude or the pronoun of dude, but I understand why now. Dude is simply because you're promoting Dude Buddha. That's part of what your practice is and what you do. It ties into who you are and what you support. And I think this is fantastic. And building a tribe for awesome biz dads. Like, this is great. This puts a huge smile to my face because these services are desperately needed. Because unlike women who will freely get together and communicate, even though they, a lot of cases, they'll viciously jab each other behind their back. That's the nature of a lot of women. They will, and the advantage of it is they will get together more openly and freely than men will. They don't mind getting together and being open about what they're doing. And it's a big advantage to be that way. Whereas men tend to repress and close themselves off. And by doing this, what a great thing you've built. What a great give back.
Thank you. No, it's been fun. Like, it's a side thing for me, right? It's not my main thing at all, but that's why we have 5 volunteers that run it, right? So, but the dude is because that's who I am. I'm not very formal. I'm chill. I'm an R&B kind of hip hop kind of guy, although I like rock and roll music and everything. But I'm just super chill, and I want it to be. I want people to know that I'm approachable, right? But at the end of the day, my passion is just helping people live a full life. And Michael Jackson, when I saw it, like I said, I'm like, wow, man, everyone's on their feet and cheering. And when I saw, like, man, he should be walking forward, but he's going backwards. What's up with that, right? I'm like 7 or 8 years old or something, right? So I just that's kind of like what I want to do. Like with my full-time work, my businesses, it's always trying to I'm moving more and more towards creating that experience for people and supporting them living more fuller lives and growing, professionally and personally, right? That's like it's just what I love to do. And Dude Buddha is like a part of it, which is great.
Yeah, and you can see even in the backdrop, the style and flair with you, the cool running shoes, all the colorful shoes, R2-D2 and Grogu in the background. I think I love it. I'm a big Star Wars fan as well. But, you really spike on really being the change you want to be. We're going to wrap up this show. I think it's just awesome that I've had this journey with you today. I've gained a lot of insight into what makes you tick and what you've really done. You've taken your triumphs of adversity and really showcased them to help the world. And, it was a pleasure to feature you last Friday in the Friday feature, my give back as well, because, it was 2 weeks ago, but I just see the give back you've done over time and the impact you have even in the local community of Ottawa. It's just tremendous, Tuan. Listen, you've been a terrific guest. Ladies and gentlemen, whatever you decide to do, make sure to connect with Tuan Nguyen on LinkedIn. Make sure to connect with Buddha Dad. Get onto the website. Get to know him. Reach out. He can help coach and mentor you in many facets, in many ways, in sales, marketing, business development. He's tech savvy. Listen, whatever you decide to do, cheers and the happy hour to you, ladies and gentlemen. Dude, have a terrific day.
What a pleasure. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. Have a terrific day. This is Rob and Tuan from The Drunken Grape.